Welcome, everybody. Let's start today with everyone's favorite subject, tariffs. Not normally the most titillating topic, but it is one of the few topics that even approximates policy that Donald Trump is willing to talk about. I'm going to play a very interesting video for you of Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, saying he's not a fan of Trump's tariff proposal. Now, when it comes to policy, Trump will mostly only talk about mass militarized deportations of migrants and putting tariffs on China. Trump has said he'll put a 10 to 20% blanket tariff on Chinese goods. Trump has offhandedly said earlier this week he'll put a 200% tariff on John Deere products if John Deere does indeed move any production to Mexico. Trump's economic tool is tariffs. Tariffs are going to solve the national deficit. Tariffs are going to solve how we pay for childcare. It's always tariffs. Trump has one hammer. It's called tariffs. Everything looks like a nail. So here is Mitch McConnell asked, what do you think about this Trump tariff plan?
Former President Trump has proposed a 200% tariff on John Deere tractors if they're made in Mexico. Are you concerned that some of these tariff proposals by the GOP nominee could drive up costs for consumers or hurt urban exporters in Kentucky, for example?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of tariffs. They raise the prices for American consumers. I'm more of a free trade kind of Republican that remembers how many jobs are created by the exports that we engage in. So I'm not a tariff fan.
So listen, many of you have written to me, many of you with tears in your eyes as you type, just sobbing, saying, Sir David, can you explain when using tariffs as an economic tool would be useful? Rarely is there a tool that's just always bad. If it's not a good idea to implement tariffs the way Donald Trump plans to implement them, when would tariffs be okay and wouldn't just cause inflation? And I think that this is an excellent question. Whether or not tariffs raise domestic prices depends on a number of factors. How competitive is the industry? How available are substitutes? And what are the broader market dynamics? So, for example, if the country imposing the tariff, the United States in this example, doesn't produce enough of the good being tariffed domestically or doesn't produce it at the same quality, consumers will probably keep relying on the imported good, paying the tariff, which will make it more expensive domestically. So imagine you get most of your electronics from Thailand, and then all of a sudden there's a tariff on Thai electronics. If the American-made electronics are of lower quality, or you just don't make electronics domestically, consumers will just keep getting the Thai electronics, paying the tariff, and it will be inflationary, the fact that you put in that tariff. Another example, lack of substitutes. If there are few or no alternative sources of the good, either domestically or from some other country, the price is going to increase domestically as a result of the tariff. So imagine some unique foreign luxury product. If you put a tariff on that and domestic producers can't offer an alternative, consumers are just going to face higher prices. It will be inflationary. There's a bunch of other factors. What sort of market power does the importer have? What sort of market power does the exporter have? Are there supply chain disruptions that are particular to, this is more when you're using component parts, like if you put a tariff on auto parts from China for American assembled vehicles, that can cause a supply chain disruption and make the vehicles more expensive in the United States. That's something we saw during COVID, for example. So when can you use tariffs without raising prices domestically? Well, it's the opposite of all of these scenarios. If there's plenty of domestic options for getting a particular good, you can often safely tariff imports of that very same product. When there are substitute products available, it's not necessarily that the U.S. makes the same good, but it's that the U.S. or third countries have a substitute that's feasible. You know, there's, I don't know, what's a good example of this? You put, my Sumo oranges, my beloved Sumo oranges, you put a tariff on Chinese sumos, but all of a sudden Chile is making sumos. I think they are, actually. So, hey, you know what? We can go and get the sumos from Chile instead of China. We're hurting China economically, but consumers in the U.S. aren't paying higher prices. So there are these situations in which you can do it. Trump's tariffs on China will increase prices. Many consumer goods are heavily sourced from China. Domestic alternatives aren't readily available. As I've said, we can re-engineer our entire manufacturing chain, but that would take years. In the short term, even in the medium term, it would be quite inflationary. Many products from China are low cost. The substitutes will be more expensive or less available when we have them. That'll drive up costs. Increased production costs, because companies that rely on Chinese components or materials will have to pay more for the components. They will just pass that on by charging more for the finished product. And then finally, foreign producers may not absorb the cost. Trump has the idea, if you put a 10% tariff on China, China will just cut the cost 10% to account for that. Very often that does not happen. And if you look historically at examples, it very often doesn't happen. And so when you look at the tool tariff, yes, there are times you can narrowly use tariffs in certain situations, on certain goods, or on certain materials without causing domestic inflation. Trump's 10 to 20% on Chinese stuff is very much the opposite. Mitch McConnell happens to be right on this. By the way, bonus clip from this press conference that Mitch McConnell did, he was asked, is this entire Mark Robinson thing in North Carolina a bad idea? And here's what Mitch McConnell had to say.
As a leader of your party, would you recommend that Republicans abandon the North Carolina gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson over his lewd and graphic posts on a porn website?
Well, it won't surprise you to know that I'm happy that there's not a Senate race in North Carolina.
All right. So Mitch McConnell acknowledging the long odds now facing Mark Robinson after being caught declaring himself a black Nazi who would like to own some slaves if slavery came back, who admitted to peeping in girls' locker room showers, and who said that he's into transgender pornography, despite public statements denouncing the trans community. Mitch saying, that's not good. It is not good. One of our sponsors is Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Don't you think it's time you stopped putting smoke and vape oils in your lungs? Zippix toothpicks are a convenient way to curb the nicotine cravings. Zippix toothpicks are super discreet. You can use them anytime, anywhere smoking and vaping aren't allowed, including flights, sporting events, in restaurants. They're available in 6 different flavors with options of 2 and 3 milligrams of nicotine. If you're not a nicotine user, Zippix also offers caffeine and B12 infused toothpicks. Zippix has already helped tens of thousands of customers ditch the cigarettes, ditch the vapes. They might be able to help you too. If you're a smoker or a vapor, give Zippix toothpicks a try. Your lungs will thank you. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com today. Save 10% with the code PACMAN10 at checkout. Just remember, you must be 21 or older to order. The link is down below.